in spots, but also it might not work so well for residents in particular communities in other parts of the world.
And when it comes to building facilities like data center locally, I think it's more than a decision of this data center itself. You need to, think the bigger picture holistically when it comes to what kind of power locally they're generating. For example, Wulanchab is known for its green, clean energy generated. And when it comes to maybe after this data center is built, for example, also when it comes to Wulanchab and also that Guizhou data center I visited, they are also learning, attracting tech companies to set an office there simply because, there is a big data center cluster. You can build an office there and that can lead to more job creations. So when we're talking about that 10,000 jobs created in Wulanchab, it's not only about people working in data centers, but also from tech companies coming to this place because of data centers. So when it comes to this kind of a location for data centers, maybe the bigger picture matters more. But no more or less, there is no going back when it comes to AI technology.
We're not going to cancel it.
Yeah, we're not going to say, stop all the AI technology development, cancel all the data centers. It's just the solutions is very important. It's Roundtable with myself, Fei Fei, together with Yushun and Steve. Stick around, everybody. We'll be back after this break.
1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7. Mom, were there 7?
Yes, darling. There were 7 bombs.
Mom, can I sleep now?
Yes. Tonight, there were only 7.
More than 3 million people are now temporarily displaced.
About 35% of the displaced are children, are terrified about being caught up in these attacks.
1 apple, 2 monkeys, 3 elephants, 4 ducks, 5 stars.
Most children learn to count with the nice things in life, but some have to count to the sound of the world in ruins.
Sweet dreams, honey. Tomorrow, we count something else.
Children will learn no matter what. But the question is, will the grown-ups?
Hey there, global listeners. Get ready for the hottest discussions on the airwaves. Roundtable, your passport to the heart of China's buzzing society. Pressing issues, lifestyle trends, and impactful policies, we're tackling them head on with wit, wisdom, and a whole lot of fun. Discover the real China through the eyes and voices of its people. Gain a unique global perspective on topics that resonate universally. Tune in and turn up the excitement dial on Roundtable as we bridge gaps and break barriers one discussion at a time. Don't just listen, be transformed.
Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
You're listening to Roundtable. I'm Fei Fei together with Steve Haverly and Yushun. Coming up, think about something you held on to too long. A job, a project, a goal that wasn't working. We love stories about people who never gave up. But staying with the wrong thing can also drain years of your life. So here's the real question. How do you know when it's time to let go? Our podcast listeners can find us at Roundtable China on Apple Podcast. And also, please don't forget that we want to hear from you. An email is great, but a voice memo is super great. Send those our way with your thoughts on any of the issues that we discuss on the show to roundtablepodcast@qq.com. And now, let's dive into the world of knowing when to quit. We're growing up hearing the same message over and over again. Don't quit. Push through. Keep grinding. And we love stories about perseverance, the entrepreneur who almost gave up before becoming successful, the athletes who kept training after failures, and the artist rejected 100 times before finally making it. But what if perseverance is sometimes the wrong move? What if there are moments where continuing to force something actually becomes the thing holding you back? Because quitting feels like failure emotionally, but staying with the wrong thing for too long can drain years of your life. And when it comes to the business world, they reveal this in a very interesting way. Some of the biggest companies in the world didn't succeed because they never gave up. They succeeded because they knew when to stop forcing the wrong idea. So today we want to talk about that line between resilience and denial. And how do you actually know when it's time to let something go?
I think if we got it right all the time, our lives might be different than what they are now, because knowing when to quit is, maybe it's even a skill now that I say it out loud.
It's a hard choice for sure, Steve.
Right? So yeah, we can find plenty of business examples. And I want to start with one from one of the better known companies from around the world, Facebook. Examples from businesses where they decided, okay, this is enough. We're going to change course now. Do you remember when Facebook rebranded itself as Meta? That was back in 2021. And I remember at the time, and this was a common response to when that happened, everybody was like, huh? What? Why?
Yeah.
What's going on? So the company at that time made a huge bet on something that they called the metaverse, right? And the idea was that in the future, people would work and hang out and play games and attend meetings all inside this immersive virtual reality world. And they invested tens of billions of dollars into building this future. And that included the VR headsets that nobody really liked when they came out, and these virtual platforms and this entire digital, or these entire digital environments. But things kind of went wrong. It didn't go the way that they imagined. Their vision didn't come to fruition, if you will. The VR and the virtual worlds, they didn't go mainstream the way that they had hoped. It was one of the things.
Yeah, thinking about, back in 2021 when Metaverse first came into our attention, I think a lot of other tech companies tried to follow suit, building their own version of their own Metaverse.
Yeah, but you can have your own avatar and start conversations with the friends online. And I'm not getting that, solid concept of a metaverse, but I can understand what that kind of big, image or imagination they want to have.
Yeah.
When we were in that era, because that was the pandemic era, and people basically do everything online. And of course, people would imagine maybe if in the world that people have to do everything online and the metaverse, it is I think, middle ground between the reality and the virtual world.
I think it was a little bit too abstract for people to grasp.
Yeah.
And also buying VR sets.
Yeah, I just think it was something that, we use that expression, creating a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. And I think that's what Zuckerberg did there. But it was kind of an interesting little peek behind the curtain of his creative mind, because you could see where he was coming from. But the fact of the matter is that people didn't naturally integrate it into their daily life. So they didn't fully abandon the metaverse, but over time, the company stopped being it stopped being the central identity of the company. And it was a few years later actually, between 2023 and 2025, that Meta began kind of quietly scaling back the intensity of the push for the metaverse. And they shifted their focus back to AI development and Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp, things that they own, and also advertising, which is still their core business. So why I bring this up as an example is because the company invested a tremendous amount of money into one idea. And when a company does that, it can be very difficult to step back and say, maybe this isn't the right time for this. Maybe the concept is too early for people. Maybe if we wait 20 years or something, this can be successful. But right now, I think it's wise to pull the plug. And like I said, they didn't fully pull the plug on it, but they did say, this isn't the right direction for us, not in terms of this heavy an investment of our money and our time and our efforts.
They are, I think, still doing these kind of things, just in a way that goes with the current society right now. For example, the VR glasses that they're working on, they are really good.
They haven't abandoned the concept completely or entirely. It's just they also didn't say, we have to make this work. They didn't go with that idea. They weren't being stubborn, so they shifted course a little bit.
But when it comes to the business world, there are also cases and examples that a whole project or a whole product just got sort of somewhat cancelled or dropped because they find either the entrepreneur or the business world decide it's not working anymore. For example, this company called Tiny Speck.
Yeah. So have you ever heard of this? Maybe not, right? So their main project was this online video game. It was called Glitch. And it took them years to build it. They spent a lot of money they put into that project. Also, a ton of emotional investment went into it as well. But when they launched it, it just didn't take off. They didn't have enough users to survive. So this is an interesting story because what that company did was, when they were building the game, they had created an internal chat tool for their team members to communicate with each other while they were working. And they had no intention of that being a product whatsoever. It's just something that they were using from employee to talk to each other. But they noticed something interesting. The chat tool worked super well.
Better than the game itself?
Better than the game itself, actually. Better than the game they were trying to build. So that company, they shut down the game entirely. They didn't try to tweak it. They didn't try harder. They just said, that's it. They fully ended it. And when they did that, they focused entirely on the messaging tool. And that turned into something called Slack. Slack is a major workplace communication platform used by a number of different companies around the world. And again, it's another example of a company saying, we are not going to be stubborn. We are not going to say we need to be successful with this project. They recognized that it wasn't working. They pulled the plug and they went in a different direction, and it turned out to be the right thing for them.
It feels like it's probably when a lot of people think when they are trying to not work too hard, but work smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like, of course we're saying that sometimes that kind of stubbornness is kind of needed when you're trying to achieve something. But in the world that is changing so fast, maybe a little bit of mind twist can find you another way.
Would there be Chinese? I'm guessing there are a lot of Chinese companies that did something similar, came out with an idea, but then changed course.
When it comes to tech companies, I think we always see a trend of when a new concept pop up on the market. A lot of, basically all of the tech companies trying to follow suit. For example, when companies first have their cloud services, every tech company started building up their own cloud services. But I think earlier this year, one of the tech companies decided to basically close their cloud services simply because there's no point continuing down on that path. They have bigger competitors on the market providing better and bigger cloud services, and their user base isn't big enough. So that tech companies did not decide to close their cloud services. It's a small news. Even, that's why they close it, I guess. Even the news of they closing it didn't really stir much of an attention on the market. So that's one example. But when I think there are other examples, bigger ones, more well-known ones, right?
Yeah, I can think of one. It is actually a phone manufacturer that is called Smartisan, and I actually kind of in favor of this smartphone. It used to have quite good reviews when people were actually using it, no matter it's the hardware and software. But the thing is that they didn't really succeed and didn't survive in the whole smartphone industry. But the founder that is, I think he understood that he has a personality that a lot of people loves. So instead of keeping that kind of stubbornness of making, of course, he had some sort of stubbornness in making phones. And I also think that is one of the reasons that a lot of people love his product. But the thing is that he didn't keep that kind of stubbornness in the way that keep having the phone brand. But he turned his whole, I think, the personality fandom into another way, which is his e-commerce commercial live stream. And then he actually had a quite success in that area. And I think he had made a lot of money and clear some of his debts.
Yeah, he was huge debt because that smartphone was covered.
Oh, and then when he did the e-commerce thing, he was able to be successful there.
And I think he was claiming that he's probably also had the plan to restart another brand or something. It is not really a very solid thing that I got, but the thing is that he, I think, changed the direction very quickly, and also along the current situation when the society is really focusing on the efficiency of all of these live stream e-commerce platforms. And also he used the thing that he got, that is the personality and all the way he can sell products.
So this is what I wanted to ask about, because we've given the examples of major companies, right? But these concepts apply to us as individuals as well. Like you said in the beginning, Feifei, we love a story of perseverance. We love it, but why is it that we romanticize those kind of stories of never giving up?
Well, I think on some level, giving something up costs you more than continuing down the old path. For example, it's another story when it comes to businesses, because when it comes to businesses, I think people can be more cold, that you are not essentially emotionally attached to a lot of your jobs. But when it comes to, for example, a relationship, a friend that you've been known for 7 years, just completely cut him or her out of your life is a very, very difficult decision to make. And especially when it comes to romantic relationships. What if, the question always lingers, what if he changes? What if things will turn around maybe next month?
Things will get better.
Yeah, and this purpose of continuing dragging you down that path of continuing down, but also because you've known that person, you've been on this job for, a year or maybe a decade, is somehow still in your comfort zone, even though it's the wrong choice. So when you're thinking about, changing gears, going to a completely different direction, quitting it,
But I feel that we're not saying that, okay, just give up the perseverance. Just change the direction right after when you're thinking something is wrong. It is not. Because what we are saying, or what we are talking about, some of these very famous examples, and maybe they have other quality that other people don't have. That's what we call kind of survivorship bias. That's when we see all of these successful examples in the world, they are probably just one of the million. So, of course, perseverance is also very important. And other thing is that when people are saying it is really important, it's because there is one thing, the sunk cost. We have been putting a lot of effort, in this already. And then maybe people would think if you work a little bit harder more, then you can get the success.
Then here's the tricky question. How do you tell between the lines whether you are having that good quality of perseverance with being stubborn and trap yourself in a very difficult situation?
Well, if you use the sunk cost trap as an example, then you're only focusing on the time or energy or money that you've invested.
Yeah.
You're not looking at the results, so you're not looking at the direction. So if you're in a relationship, for example, and you say, oh, but I've been with him for 3 years, you're focusing only on the time. you're not focusing on the quality of the relationship. You're not focusing on the direction of the relationship. Over time, still aligned with reality. Ask those questions in a relationship example, but you can talk about
Now the news. I'm Shin Bigum. Chinese President Xi Jinping has replied to students who participated in a shared voyage, China-U.S. Youth Friendship Program. Achieving Beijing's target 2.5 years ahead of schedule. The president stressed that young people are the most vibrant and visionary group, representing the future and hope of China-U.S. relations. He expressed his hope for more Chinese and Americans to uphold the two countries' friendship, learn from each other, progress together, and contribute to the stable, healthy, and sustainable development of China-U.S. relations. China's Shenzhou 21 crew has transferred operation of the country's space station to the Shenzhou 23 crew during a handover ceremony. The Shenzhou 21 crew has now completed all planned tasks. The 3 astronauts will take the Shenzhou 22 spacecraft and return to the Dongfeng landing site in Inner Mongolia. Home. The 3 astronauts of the Shenzhou 23 mission entered the Tiangong space station on Monday. China's securities regulator says foreign capital has been flowing steadily into the country's stock market this year via $4 trillion yuan, or roughly $586 billion in tradable A shares. Vice Chairman Liu Haileng says foreign investors are showing Meanwhile, at least 2 people have reportedly died in an Israeli airstrike that injured 1 other. Lebanon civil defense says rescue teams have evacuated 29 civilians trapped in buildings damaged by airstrikes. Meanwhile, Hezbollah says it's targeted Israeli forces and military positions in southern Lebanon using drones, rockets, and artillery. Associated Press reporter Karim Shahab has more from Beirut.
Overnight, we witnessed the ongoing Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon. There was apparently an emphasis on the coastal city of Tyre and its surroundings, and of course this comes just a couple of days after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he's going to scale up the attacks on Lebanon and basically expand the scope of the ongoing operations, which for several weeks has been largely confined to areas in southern Lebanon. There was a massive call for evacuations in the city of Tyre, in the city of Nablus, and all that we